I've been reading a lot recently about the number of women who are getting into business and how, you know, we're really changing the landscape of the way that America is growing economically, because we are in charge a lot more. And that sounds fantastic. I was telling my husband it was like this women's entrepreneurial revolution that's going on. That's what it feels like, because everywhere you turn, there's something going on about women in business. The problem is that a lot of them don't talk about women who were in business, who are not anymore. They don't talk about failure. And that's what I wanted to talk about tonight, because just out of curiosity, the story Cinderella, how does that end?
She gets married to the prince.
She gets married to the prince happily ever after. What about Snow White?
She wakes up.
Prince Charming. Okay. What about Rumpelstiltskin?
Happily ever after. Throw your hair down. Remember?
Yep. All of the stories that we heard as little girls all ended in happily ever after.
Because of a man.
Does somebody rescue them?
Yeah, somebody rescues them, right.
Exactly. So what does that put in our head? That our lives are going to end happily ever after. Whether a man is involved or not, I haven't even realized that it was the man that was the key. But whether there was a man involved or not, they all end happily ever after, and that's the perception that we have. And so one of the fears that a lot of ladies have when they're getting into business is that, what happens when I fail? Failure is scary. Failure means not happily ever after. Failure is not supposed to happen to good people. And it's this perception that we have that because failure is so scary, and it is wrong, right? It's inherently wrong. I mean, there's just something about it. You don't get up in the morning and go, gosh, I hope I failed really well today. You know, you talk about being successful. And when you have that perception, that evil, dark perception of failure, when it happens to you, what does that do to you personally? When you don't get the account that you were hoping for, when your business doesn't take off the way that you thought it would, when you come up with this fantastic product design and nobody wants to buy it, what does that do? It crushes you. When one of my businesses failed, it took me 1.5 years to get over it. I was absolutely devastated. I was completely ruined. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to see anybody. I wanted nothing to do with anything. I felt like a failure to my family. Felt like a failure to my kids, to my husband. I was the breadwinner. And now all of a sudden I'm not. And my kids are having to eat based on me being able to scrimp together whatever it was I could to get whatever. And it was stuff that I knew wasn't healthy for them, but that was the cheapest stuff that was on sale. How dare I do that to my children? And that was all my fault because I failed. But there's a different way to look at failure. Zig Ziglar says failure is an event, not a person. Yesterday ended last night. Today is your brand new day, and it's going to be magnificent. Failure is an event, not a person. When you fail, you are failing at that one thing. You can't take it personally. When people tell you no, they aren't telling you no. They're telling you the proposition that you have made to them no. Matter of fact, most of the time they're probably telling you not yet. You just haven't found the right way to communicate what you need to them in order to get them to say yes. So failure is an event. And we have understood that not everything that we put our hands on is going to be successful. That you are going to fail, right? Yeah, and you have already failed a bazillion times in your life. Even more than you can count right now. When you took your first step and you fell flat on your behind, your parents didn't say, well, Janet's not a walker. We're just going to have to carry her. No. They encouraged her to get back up and keep going. The first time that you ever rode a bike, you didn't get on and paddle off across the street. You fell down and skinned up your elbows and your knees and all points in between. But you kept going. The thing was that whenever you fell, whenever you were taking that step and fell, whenever you were getting on the bike and you fell, you learned, when I do the bike this way, it means I'm going to fall. So don't do this the next time. You've learned something every time you fail. I am grateful for the failures that I have had, and I have had some big ones. I am grateful for every single failure because they were so fantastic. And I mean fantastic as in enormous, not fantastic as in, woo, I failed. They were so fantastic that I never wanted to repeat that again. I did not like that feeling. I didn't like the way it felt. I didn't like the experience that I had. I made certain that the next time that I got up, dusted myself off, and said, all right, let's try this again, that I would not repeat the same mistake that I had just made. So looking at failure from that perspective as a learning experience makes it less scary. It makes it less difficult. It's still going to be scary and difficult because you're failing. Nobody wants to think that they're failing. But you have to understand that that happily ever after that we were fed over and over and over again as little girls is not real life. Real life is failure. But it's also learning from those failures and those mistakes that separates us from all of the rest of the animals on the planet.